Hey, what's going on here? Good to see y'all. I'm going to have to go fast now because I can't say hello in 15 minutes and I ain't got but 45. But what a privilege it is to be here with you. And I want to thank Coach Wiley, Coach Alexander. I saw Coach McNally running around here for their generosity. Greatest clinic in the world for $95? My God. That's fantastic, ain't it? Man, it's unbelievable. And their kindness has been going on for years and years. Some of y'all too young to know how long. But this is about 43 years for me. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I put this stat up here not to show you what we were. We were pretty good. I'll have to admit that. But the tackles for a loss, that's the key. That's what it's about, keeping it simple. That's what my talk is today. We got 4 basic plays here. Probably no way I'll get through it all, but I'll try to give you everything I know. We're going. This is the first time I've been able to spend the night, so I'll be around hanging out and do anything you want to do. I give up chewing tobacco so I can stay up a little longer now, and I'm doing pretty good. All right, but that's what we do. Maverick, I'm having a little problem. There we go. But I showed you this. I won't go into all this. Why do I use boards for your base? Why do I use chutes for pad level? The trade-off, the chutes, they're going to duck their head. Yes, that's a negative. But I trade that off for the hips and knees and ankles being able to bend and creating a little flexibility. We also use it for landmarks. Most of you know, or you do, hopefully, we have our attack point. Some people call it where they strike, whatever. I'm a pretty simple-minded fella. And by the way, I don't have any train of thought, so you ask me a question anytime. I'll just ramble on here, anything you need. But we use the boards, we use the chutes for pad level. I heard Coach Ledford talking about that. Here's just the different things that we do with footwork and making them get their pads down. You heard Coach talk about dipping and lifting. All right, that's why we use that. So we're going to dip under it. That chute's a little lower at the back end than the top end, and I use that as a landmark as I'm watching them. We film everything. That's good and bad. Obviously, you see all the flaws. And as young coaches, don't make the mistake that I've made many times. Overcoach. Overcoach. When you do that, you create a lot of negative thought. All right? So, yes, I can find 100 things wrong with everything they do up there because that's what I do. I do that all day long. All right? But they need a positive reinforcement. If it ain't nothing but, hey, man, you got good-looking socks on today, let them know something positive because I have to apologize. We only get X amount of time in the film room. It's not professional. We're governed by the 20 hours, as you know. So we only get X amount of time, and I don't get a chance to cover all the good, unfortunately, and I try to explain that. I explain everything we're going to do and why we're going to do it. Obviously, it was mentioned up here a while ago by Coach Lefford. Kids don't listen. All right, so you got to keep doing it, keep doing it, and keep doing it. So that is my thought for you right there. I've made that mistake. We use boards. We use boards and we use big dummies. My process is I like to teach things on air. I like to block a stationary target. I like to block a moving target, and then I like to block a man. And so by the time we get through that process, they will have each block down pretty good. But this is just an example of how we roll the hips, and we got lots of ways to teach that. I love what Coach Lefford said a while ago. He's showing you how to strike with the tight hands and taking the angle out. I've never thought about that. Angles, all right? But I refer to it as rolling the hips. And here's a way to use a heavy bag. I've shown some of you this that's been to see me. We do take our hands from the ground, but we use a little bit of arm sweep. Why? Because one arm's up and one arm's down. We try to get them back on the same plane together to tighten our hands. So we want to go elbow to hip, all right? And you see that one It goes from the ground to try to catch up with the other. And we try to use this, and that's a heavy bag now. If you don't roll your hips and hold it up off of you and extend those arms, you're going to have problems because it'll knock you out. And it's hard to catch it. And obviously, some of these drills I dislike in the fact I do them every day, but I dislike them because of the lack of repetition. I like to go, go, go. We play fast, so we try to practice fast. So as you can see, you got a few people watching. I don't like people watching. But when we get to the Crowther and some of those things that we do, we obviously have to, and so they can get some teaching along the way. But we try to show everything on tape. I'm not a very smart man, as I told you before, but a guy told me just this week, young people, what do they do all the time? Play on their phone, play on video games. So they learn by looking. You know, we used to go out there and walk through it and teach it. They learn on film. So we just film everything. And that's how we teach it. So this is just a little thing. I got a question a while ago. Why do we use the hand instead of the flipper? Several reasons. We used flipper a long time ago, and defensive guys got really good at their hands. And when we would flipper, we'd get too close to them sometime. Now, we are going to use hand and shoulder, as Coach said earlier. All right? But they would get their hands on us, and we couldn't get off to the next level. So we worked the Crowther quite a bit. And here's a good example of footwork. We try to gain a little bit of ground. We refer to it as a tamp step. Now, most of you guys in here don't know what a tamp is. You ain't never had to pour concrete and construction and run a tamp and all that sort of stuff, but tamping the ground. All right, we're going to tamp that foot. We like to gain ground as we go. How he steps is determined how the defensive line align on you. So if he's wide, obviously, we can be a little more aggressive up the field. If he's tight, obviously, we step in with our gap foot first, and then our near knee's going to come back to the defender. But if he's tight, then we got to step in a little bit as well. So we align the defender on him tight, head up, shade, tight shade, loose shade, and work all those branches of footwork as we go right there. But this is pretty good. You can see we love to get 4 hands on him. All right? I ain't real strong in math, but 4's better than 2. I do know that. So if we can get 4 hands on him, we can create a little bit more push. But you can see their first step, they getting it on the ground, and here we go. And now we can really get that defender off of us. Try to beat his hands off if he tries to hold you, because that's what they're going to now. You know, defensive coaches got a little smarter. I'm going to show you this one because of the incorrect footwork. And this is what we're looking at right here. It's not all that bad, but watch his step versus the last 2 you saw. It went nowhere. Now he's behind his partner. So now we're on different planes. So we got to work our footwork every day. This is something we do every day if it's just a couple of minutes. All right? So from there, you know, oh, Maverick, did we freeze? I'll see what you can do here. I brought my GA with me right here because I don't know nothing about this stuff, and he's the best there is. So really good. All right, I think I got it. Going to be an unbelievable coach, by the way. All right, the only problem is he lost 100 pounds since last year and pisses me off because, hell, I ain't lost none, but he did. So in 1 year, Coach, he went from 325 down to that. All right, here's a little ditty. I don't know if you've seen it or have it. All right, it's called a power drive. I like to use this for hand placement. This thing's going to roll if you push it. It will not roll if you don't push it. I don't care if you set it on the heel, because there's a tumbler inside, and I can load it down till they can't move it. They can slide it, but they can't roll it. That's how heavy you can make it. So this is pretty good. We work our combination footwork on it. We place our hands. I'm watching their pad level. You can see the dip that was mentioned earlier. We get that pad level down. We'd like to be looking through our hands. and now you got to replace. It's not a realistic thing sometimes, in run blocking. You're not replacing your hands like that all the time, but it keeps them active, and that's what I like about it. And it's really hard to do, and it pisses them off. You can tell I'm a little bit cantankerous old cat, but I make them step on each other's foot just to piss each other off a little bit and get them a little bit ill. Coach talked about the tenacity of your linemen. That's kind of what we do right there, and they learn to do that. But from that now, this is the whole process as we're going, and we're going to jump in those plays. Did I miss one, Maverick? All right, here we work in the inside zone. We call this a gallop. I'm not much on stepping backwards. We love zone blocking, but we kind of set these guys back. Our alignment is fingers on the toes. We get 2-foot splits. Sometimes we'll cheat them up. I do not vary alignments much. We stay in a universal alignment all the way. I know people line at different levels. I never was quite smart enough to handle that. Too much thinking. But if we need him to move up, he'll go from his hand from the toe to the back tip of the ball, particularly when we pull in the center. Why? He doesn't have to step backwards quite as much and retreat. So that's why we do that. But that spot over there is not there for purpose. I'm just moving it out of the way. So don't think that's a landmark or nothing. All right. We identify the linebacker when we run the inside zone. When we leave the huddle, the onside guard and center are working together. Or not the huddle, when we're at the line, because we don't huddle anymore. But that's automatic. Now, if we need to change that, the center will take care of that. He'll make a call, and him and the backside guard will work together. Obviously, in the zone concept, we're trying to get 2-on-1 every chance we can. And from there, we got to go. Now, you know what's going to happen with linebackers is they're going to fall back inside. So if that backside A-gap player gets tight or moves down on the center, then we want the center and backside guard to work together. So we'll make a call and change that. And then it changes the footwork of the front side too. I don't like a whole lot of calls. I like for them to know what we're doing from recognition. But obviously today's game, you got to make some. But we keep it pretty simple. And knock on wood, we haven't turned a lot of people loose. We might get our butt whipped, but we don't turn them loose. We're headed in the right direction. So that's how that combination goes. And we'll work this footwork together. He always tamps his gap foot unless that A-gap player is tight to the center. Then he has permission to step with a near foot. And so it will be a lateral step in that case. So just by alignment, they change their footwork, and we do it over and over and over. We're trying to become better hand users. We don't do that well enough. I've gotten 2 guys over from defense, and it's amazing to me. Defensive guys, all they do is put their hands in your chest, hands in the chest. Unbelievable. They're perfect. And then when they come to me, it's automatically they go outside. I ain't said a word to them. They just automatically put them outside. And I said, man, we just went against you yesterday, and you had them tight. It's just a safety blanket, and they, it takes a little while to feel that, but we do a lot of pushing things, and they'll find out it's a lot easier to push with them hands tight than them hands out wide, and it's just a common sense thing, boys. I know y'all can't tell it, but I'm a little country, and we, we'll push a golf cart, we'll push whatever, might push a truck, it's whatever. That's why we got that power drive. And that's a pretty neat thing. So, but this is the kind of stuff we do over and over. We got to go odd too now. I won't have time to show you all that, but here's the center working with the backside guard, and everybody's footwork has to change. And we do the same thing we get here. We're working combination. We're seeing more 3s and 4 eyes than ever before. Or not 3s. 3s is normal, but 4 eyes. We see a great deal of them. And that's the big point of emphasis that I think gets overlooked. I've heard these coaches say it. I heard Coach Lefford say it. Eyes. Where are your eyes? What are you focusing on? Do you give him a focal point? What is he looking for? A lot of time it may be something, and it's really a crock. You know what I'm saying when I say crock, right? Crock or crap sometimes. But just the thought of when I tell that guard, hey, you see his backside number now before you come off. And it may just hold him on there just a little bit longer. Because, you know, if you make him think just a little bit, you see his backside number. You got to be careful, though, because sometimes they wear single digits, and they don't know what to do now over on defense when that happens. So I've had that question, and he said, Coach, he just got one number. I'm telling him to strike the play side number and breastplate. Well, he's only got one number. So anyway, you got to cover your rear end. You got to give them two focal points. But these are the things. I know you do all these. I'm running through them pretty fast here. But know where your defender is, who you're working to, communicate, talk to each other. We don't make a whole lot of calls, but we do say bump. We do say over, you know, that sort of thing. And then I'm a big believer in this. I don't get with the tight ends very much, and it's kind of funny because we run the power and all that stuff, and very rarely do we get them down there. But I'm a big believer in just having a few minutes of schemes, and you'll see bad footwork here, but we're just going fast, quick schemes, just a few minutes, make them think quickly, ask them which foot, where's their attack point, you know, where are they going to be, what we're working to. So we get that, and we usually get 5 minutes of this daily. On Thursdays for us during game week, after we do extra point and field goal, they have another probably 20 minutes of special teams going through everything. So I take the offensive line, and all we do is we practice, we walk through, talk, you know, where's our attack point, who are we working to. And then I always throw a defense up there that we haven't practiced against all week long. I always try to prepare for the unexpected. And so I'll throw something up there that they haven't seen. So if they got good ground-based rules, they won't have a problem, and they'll be ready to go from there. So that's kind of what we do. Maverick, I'm froze again. And we'll get into some plays here. Right here, I always try to give them a little drawing of what we're trying to do. I know you got these, but I don't make it too difficult. I just have one little sheet, and I put basically what they do, and then I have them fill it out sometime, what they do, and then we start talking from there. And we got 7, 8 defenses on the second page that they might see. Shit. There we go. All right. Now, here's one. We identified the middle backer as who we're going after here on the inside zone, but it's a pretty good job of why we gallop. That's what I refer to it as. Where does that come from? Dressage. I can't even say the word, but my daughter was a horseback rider, and them horses, they dance sideways and pretty. So I just started calling that a gallop step, so we keep the toe and heel pointed in a straight line. Why is that important? So I can change directions. If I open that foot, my hips are going to open. It's hard to get back. Here's a good example. Watch this center right here. He's identified that linebacker as his, and now he can easily change directions and jump back on him. And we do. Now I heard Coach Pittman say they're going to go outside the box. We do. You heard Coach Ledford tell you about the defensive front they had. Chubb, oh, fantastic, good God. And of course we practice against some pretty good ones every day too. But those linebackers can come off the edge and get us on the inside zone. It may not for you. You got to decide that. So we're going to make a call. We're going to make an out call. We're going to go out there to them. Of course, everybody has to come. So that's one of those few calls that we make. But if we're wrong, we live with it. but we're all going to be on the same page. Don't make a big deal out of it. I put a few of these inside zones in here. I tried to give you an example of everything that can happen. Here's a combination. Good gallop by the center. Now they can climb. Good job climbing off on the backside here. I don't like the fact that his knee didn't go more into him. That guy right there was the first pick. He's pretty good. So, but these are just some things that you see. Who we ID'd. We tell you who we're going to block. We coming. All right? But we point a lot of times when it doesn't mean anything. And so I throw that out there for you. If you're going to do that, I like doing that because I like the elimination of mistakes. So I'll point and tell you, hey, we coming to block you. But we'll also do that too on other things that doesn't really matter, doesn't count. We're going the other way. But we always tamp the gap foots. And see, this is a way wasted step. Awful. All right? We don't get enough on him. Well, we get some movement, but pretty good job snapping off. His linebacker scrapes out at the last minute. Now, here's another thing you guys don't understand, that our guys have to be pretty smart up front. I think that's what that guy was saying a while ago, wasn't he? I mean, I'm not making fun, but the stats man. Wasn't he talking about the offensive line's important? Because he said the value of a running back. That damn Barkley, I'd like to have that dude. Jeez, I'm going to tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, our number 9, he's a difference maker. So don't let him fool you. They important too. All right? But we don't know sometimes that there's motion. Sometimes we get that call. We're just sitting up there like goats at the gate, man. We're just waiting on, hey, what you want to run? All right, here we go. So finally I told him, I said, well, heck, man, you got to give us a little bit of warning now. If you want me to climb off to that safety there when that boy vacates, how about telling me sometime? So we'll put a buzzword in there every now and then, and if it's going to affect us, because sometimes it does. But, you know, they'll motion to the play, they'll motion away from the play, and all I want is them to tell me so I can tell my guys, hey, there's going to be a box change, boys. What does that mean? The linebacker's going to move over and the other one's going to come in there. So and we'll take care of it from there. If you'll just let me know. And so we have learned the names for motion. Everything we do is one word. One word. So we're allowed to play fast or we can slow it down. But every call is one word. We don't even have a snap count. We just run the same one all the time. So now, how do we get away with that? Because I teach that quarterback. I teach him. Not the quarterback coach. Hey, hold them numbers. We always say 2 numbers in there in snap count. Hold them. 19. 19, go! So we can slow it down right there. That's the same as going on too, ain't it? So we eliminate all that worrying about different snap counts. Just change it up. Change up the how fast you spit it out there. So we've been very fortunate, able to do it. So it's a pretty good job by the tackle prying back here, just to keep the runner off of us. Now, why? Coach Wiley, you're going to like this now. My wife don't care nothing about football. All she likes is the paycheck. But she don't care. I'm telling you this now, you can cuss me, anything you want, but don't talk about them offensive linemen. She loves it when they get on me, but she'll fight your ass over them boys. But she was sitting there watching tape with me after this game, and she said, why didn't he just run right there where that big hole is? I said, well, I'll be damned if I know, honey. That's what we've been trying to get him to do. Coach Pittman made a great point a while ago. Yeah, it's pretty simple. We're just reading the first guy past the center right there. But now we teach them, hey, now we're going to read the backside backer. How does he flow? Hey, tell me what you want to run. We'll get it. Now, I will say, I got 2 of the smartest young coordinators. They're unbelievable. They're fantastic. And they just asked the old man, can we do that? And I say, yeah or no. So I don't know no football, but I've seen a hell of a lot of it. So I'll tell you that. But anyway, these are some average old Joes up there that are very loyal. Listen now. That's what we recruit. Loyal, disciplined people. Okay? They ain't the greatest players. Some of them didn't have no stars. That one right there, the day I offered him, what did he say? Coach, I don't have no stars by my name. He was from South Georgia down there. Hell, they didn't even know where his high school was. I said, that's why I like you. I ain't got to knock none off of you. So, who's awarding them stars? Some dude that ain't never put on a job. He's a sports writer for a reason. Huh? Come on now. When I retire, maybe I'll be a sports writer. I can do all that stuff. Here we go. Now, I apologize here, but I'm trying to get you a little bit of everything. Slanting fronts, out call. You stop me, split flow. We do a little bit of all. Inside zones are number one play. How many times we run it? 200 and 300 times or something. Anyways, over 10 times a game, 10, 12, 15, because all the RPOs are off of it. Now, that was hard for me to learn that, what's the acronym? Because when you grow up in the country, all you've ever heard is RPMs. I don't know nothing about no RPOs. So, but I can tell you about RPM. So that was the hard part. But here's different fronts. The split flow affects the linebackers. We got motion and split flow up there. So these are things we have to know. Good job of this tackle just slowing down. We call that sifting through. You know, you don't have anybody to climb to. But now, we don't do it all the time. It depends on what these two are doing. Why? I don't like to have a guy on an island. Some of y'all don't mind one guy blocking that one guy. Let me tell you why. Brent Venables, first day of spring, we saw under, over, odd, bear with every twist and every stunt. First day, I got two dudes ain't never played. I can't even teach them how to run a base play. And they said, well, we ain't scheming you. Shit. We put in plays that we're gonna run all year. I know they got to defend what they see, but that's what you got to be careful of. So now we got to do all that footwork. That's why the 4 basic plays. All right, we make it, and we'll break it on down to that because we'll package a couple of them together and eliminate so many things that I have to work on. Because, that guy moves just a little bit and then your footwork changes. Like right here, he should have sifted that and we'd have been a little bit better off, but there's a safety down in the box and sometimes things like that happen. But this is great right here. Watch inside. You're going to see these 3 all change men right here as they go. And this is why the footwork's critical. This is why we tamp the foot. This is why we step with the gap step. This is why we pry back. You heard all those things from Sam. Good discipline right here, not chasing, because we know where everybody's going to be. And they all 3 change right here, and we walk in. Of course, we can't account for the safety, but Lord, they're trying to figure a way we can because they want us to block every one of them. All right, here's one. You see the center. He's communicating. The tackle's communicating. This is our freshman group. Not freshmen. Some of them are, but they're young. I've never done this till I joined Coach Sweeney. One thing I love about him, he wants kids to play. I had 8 linemen that have over 200 snaps. I had 2 more that had over 150. I ain't never done that. Now, they got to earn that right. But we play them, and I ain't talking about no mop-up because we don't run the score up now. That last game we could have. We didn't. We was nice. I know Coach Wiley was wanting us to, that last one. Shit, mine was wanting to score, but anyway. But, they're going to play. We try to get them in early in a clutch situation to see how they perform, and if they don't do it, then they sit over there with me the rest of the time. But here's one with a lot of movement, everybody kind of slowing down and just picking up. I love to come off the ball. I cut my teeth running the option. Wishbone, split back, you name it, we did it. But it ain't all about flying off that ball anymore. Yeah, we coming off, but we just slow it down by shortening the steps. All right? We coming off. We're trying to attack. We want to be physical. But sometimes you just got to cover them up. I mean, that boy back there running that ball, he's on scholarship too. And he needs to earn his keep. Like right there, he should have scored. But see, we ain't got the speed them other folks have. But ain't bad. All right. Here's inside pressure. Again, we're identifying. There's times when we don't, but it's a pretty good job. That's why he works with him. He's reading the alignment of that linebacker. Like I say, it's nothing complicated. We always try to stretch him on the front side. That's pretty good footwork right here. He tries to widen that guy to make him think he's playing a reach block, and then we just kind of turn him out. Now, I love all them terms, that strong inside arm, Coach. I'm going to use that and all. But that's called a reach to turnout for us. I make it pretty descriptive. We're going to reach him, and we're going to turn him out. And I don't get into too much of all that stuff. All right, but we got to keep that toe and heel pretty much straight, keep our hips together, because if he comes inside, I got to turn him over. So we're going to use that backhand strong, but just I don't like to constipate them. All right, I give them too much info. It's like this one right here. I love this one because he's the best. But I'm going to tell you something. When I first got him, I asked him a question. He gave me a damn symposium. It's a 5-minute talk. I said, shit, son, it's a yes-no question. Shit. This is a simple game. Put your hands on them and let's go. But it's pretty good here, picking up the movement. That's a good job by the center, being patient, not chasing. A lot of young ones would want to run, just go mash him. But by using our hands, we like to think we can feel a little better than maybe just banging. And here's the other reason I use hands and shoulder and not flipper, which ain't nothing wrong with flipper now. You don't ever hear me say nothing wrong with that. But we do power cleans all the time. That's all we're doing, power cleans all the time. So we might as well use that. I told him it was a professional insult to the strength coach if we didn't do that. He's doing all that work in there. We got to show him we can use it. So that's what we do and why we do it. If I don't give you the why, then I ain't giving you money's worth. So make sure you ask it if you don't understand why. Here's and we'll screw up a lot too now, but we try not to miss them. Here's pretty good footwork. Like I say, we're always trying to go up the hill a little bit. This is okay by that backside tackle. And I know y'all thinking, well, he just missed him. Yeah, he did, but he cut him off from the inside. Our inside zone is A to A. A to A. If we wash one through A, then he can go in B. But we're running A to A. And so he sees that creeper, he's got to get that 3 technique cut off. So I can't ask him, hey, you step ease in there, keep your shoulders square. Crap, put your hat between the defender and the ball carrier and let's go. And that's what he did. And I don't have a problem with that. So if he misses, then that's my fault. All right, what happens if you got a silent count in the center? He's got an ID. Well, he's already made the ID there. What do we do if there's a 5-man box? We lock it. We're going to block 5 for 5. Automatically, the backside tackle will sift. What does that mean? If the linebacker creeps back in, then he's going to slide on through there and work up. Here's your coaching point. Anytime we lock the box, we double the shade. Anytime we lock the box, we double the shade. We don't care if he's front side or back side. Why? Because if there's a 3 technique, then that onside guard, he's man blocking now. All right, he's going to step with the inside foot and make sure nothing crosses his face. Well, if they twist, then I can pass him on. But if I step outside foot, I can't pass him on. So that's automatic when that call is made. So that right there alone, if you don't learn nothing else, you done learned something right there. Probably already knew that, but there you go. All right, got to have communication here. That's why it's tough when we go silent count. We got our head down. All right, and that guard there's got to help us. He's got to alert him. That's why you see that hand right there. Flash at him. Let him know, hey, he's back in there now. The lock's off. We're rolling. So we see every kind of front. Nobody sits still. Everybody's going to slant and move, and we kind of grown to like that. What happens when they just roaming around? They got where they do this now. They'll just roam around. You don't have a clue where they are. Well, you run tracks. What does that mean? Everybody's going to step play side foot, and here we go. It ain't real difficult, boys. Don't constipate them. Watch them. All right, just step play side foot. Now, that's awful. And we say that. One thing in my room, you're going to learn to take responsibility for your actions. If you don't believe it, just ask Maverick. I say, what is that? They'll say, that's awful or shitty. And, they ain't supposed to be saying them ugly words, but we do sometimes. All right? But that's all the questions. Give me a question now. Here you go. Here's a 5-man box. It's an automatic sift, like I say, if he sees that come back in. Now, what happens? Oh, Lord, we're wrong here. We don't have a shade. We got 2 zeros or 2s or whatever you fancy folks call it. I just call them head up. All right? So he should be favoring the side of the linebacker. All right? He went to the wrong side here. He should have told those guards what we're doing. Now, he did pry back, but he got our footwork wrong. But technically it's right because he stepped over here. That right guard right there you saw duck his head, but he mashed that dude. He's a 4-time state champion wrestler, came from defense, don't know shit from Shinola, but he's tough.
Coach, if you got two G's in that 5-man box, would he still step to the side of the linebacker?
He will wherever he IDs, yes sir. Like I say, first thing I do in recruiting, I got to find people that can overcome their coaching. Okay, I like smart guys because they have to fix my problems. All right, here's an out call. Here's all the little things. Now you look at the left tackle. Why? He opens a little much here. What I'd like for him to do, all right, is tap his feet towards that 4-eye and snap out to that end. Why? Because now everybody's going to twist. The big thing now in the inside zone is, hey, they're going to loop that end back in there when the back's away or to his side to become the extra linebacker. So we get all kind of twists. Now he goes out there way too quick. We like to make it look like we're comboing him up and go, but everybody's pushing over. This is not good here. We should have sifted a little bit right there and helped him, but he knew he had that back there with him. And we'll have the same side back. We'll have him on the play side, back side, everywhere you can put him. So this is all the odd stuff with an out call. This is a little better. All right, should be going through them. Be patient. What's the hurry? What's he going to hurt out there? We're running in here. All right, don't run the risk of losing it on a twist. All right, Maverick, hit it, baby. Come on, I got to get out of here. They're going to run me off here in a second. All right, goal line, it don't matter. We run this play everywhere, anywhere. Sometimes the tight end's attached, sometimes he's not. I'm getting nothing. Obviously, we got to draw people over there when you got a hangover. Now, this is awful. This is right tackle. This is awful. But it's a pretty good job here on the backside. Good job by the center climbing. Now, let me tell you about that center's footwork. Because he has people on his nose and because he's on a different level, yes, we lose ground there. All right? We'll step with depth. All right? Try to lose ground to overtake just because of that fact. If you're having trouble snapping, I know the NFL don't like it, but if you can't snap the ball with holding it like you're a quarterback, then pendulum that thing. Been doing it for years. It's not a problem. And then the pride factor will take over, and they'll work on it because they'll watch the NFL and they'll say, well, he don't snap it that way. I said, well, damn, get your ass out there and learn how to do it. So that way they'll work extra. And that's what this one did. He started out pendulum and ended up normal. Maverick, I think I'm going too fast. But let's move on to the outside. Any questions about the inside zone? Where does the back align? Depends on his speed. Normally his toes are at 6.5, but if he's really fast like number 9, he may get at 7. If he's slow like number, what was choice, 26, then he might be at 6.5. But here's all the things. I wanted to show you this right here. Like I say, we're a little bit different. We're trying to gain a little ground. Now, I'm going to show you 2 clips here. Watch this tackle. All right, he opens his toe too much. He's got his foot a little too open in the stance for me. Remember now, I'm old school. I started in the day when you had to have your toes straight ahead. I'm not to that extreme. But I don't like him get too open because it makes this kind of step right here. Looks pretty good, but here's what we want. Let's see if we can get back to it. Just a slight bit of difference. Watch his step. All right, we want to be a little bit more aggressive. All right, now, we won't see a whole lot of sweep out of a 2-point stance. Why? Because both hands are already swept. So they're going to go straight from his knees there. I do use my hands if I'm changing direction. So if I'm opening to the right, yes, that arm will help me open. I used to use the terms like cranking a lawnmower, but you modern youngins, y'all electric start now and ride. You don't pull nothing. So that's hard. My old things, my God, they didn't know who Muhammad Ali was. They didn't know who John Wayne is. That's how old I'm getting, Coach. Nobody knows that kind of stuff anymore. So I've had to learn about Tupac and all them kind of things because that's what they know. Well, a blind hog finds an acorn every now and then, Coach. This is the same thing Coach was showing. We all do the same drills type deal. This is working the outside zone. It took me forever. My history, I'm an old sweep guy, and I like getting the ball on the edge. And it took me forever to get them just to run the outside zone. I don't know what you call it, Coach. You made the point a while ago. To me, it's just a sweep. But I had to sell it as they block the exact same people you block on the inside zone, just different technique. So I guess you call it wide zone. All right. I don't know anymore. But, we do all the things. We slant them, we move them, we make sure you do. That's why, his angle changes the tighter that end gets. So those things are still relative in our eyes. Now, I'm not saying that's right, it's just what we do. But our outside zone, exact same people, different technique. Exact same people, different technique. Now, we run it to the tight end and we run it away from the tight end. Ideally, if we're running it to the tight end, I want to be in the pistol. If we're running away from the tight end, I want to be in the hip position. Why? Because the ball's going to get downhill probably a little sooner. But that tight end, H-back, can help me on the 5 technique if the contain is back. So there's 1 or 2. Coach, you need to go. You just tell me here. But here's an example. Now, at this point, when I first did it, these wide guys, we had 2-step dragging. What does that mean? We'd keep our shoulders square and to try to keep him from beating us inside before the guard. Now, that guard is actually helping the tackle and then kiss him back on the nose. And that we catch them by surprise. Versus odd, it doesn't matter. A lot of it's relative, but he'll check stun inside, slow down. That's all he got to do. On the backside, Coach, we will cut. Coach Lefford made a good point. And I saw Neil Gilman over there. We use them donuts. I bought some of those from him. We can roll them out there. and they'll cut, and we gator roll, rip an arm through there and gator roll. All right? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank y'all for letting me be here.
Really great to be here. I know that sounds like a cliche, but this is really cool. It's really cool to me. I've been coming to this thing for a long time. It's hard for us West Coast people. You know, I kind of envy some of you guys that drive, 3 hours. That's a tough haul. I think I got here at 3 a.m. last night, which is really only midnight for me, so it's not too bad. The tough thing for all you guys is it's getting kind of late, and I know you're probably tired, but hell, it's dinner time for me, so I'm doing good. Very fortunate to come to this thing when I was a young coach. I think this is one of the coolest things in the profession of coaching, period. I came here, I was 20 some years old, mid-20s. I was at Montana State. I thought I knew a lot, realized when I got here I didn't know shit, pardon my language. It was awesome. Ended up going to the bar after the clinic and just sitting there listening to guys, and I was writing on napkins and wrote. I had a pocket full of napkins. Somehow we ended up at Skyline Chili at 3 in the morning. I was still writing napkins. I'd love to get back here every year. It's hard. Our recruiting stuff's gotten crazy. Every time I come back, it like renews you. It gets you thinking, and you learn a different way of saying something or a different way of doing something, and it's incredible to me. It just kind of re-energizes me, and I think it's awesome. There's a lot of guys in here in my career. I wish I could just sit here and point them all out. Coach Mudd, I used to go see him every year when I was at Montana State, and I think he got sick of me for a while, and he's an amazing coach. And a bunch of guys I've been around here, Coach Alexander, I've seen all the time. So going forward a little bit, I'm going to hit a couple different things, and hopefully some of this ties in a little bit of kind of philosophy stuff that I've kind of gone around and tried about everything and going through. And again, I think, when I was a young coach and I came here, I didn't know much about football. And so I spent a lot of time going, okay, that step and that hand placement and this and that. And I learned a whole bunch of things. And I got really good at, make details of every little block and every little thing. What kind of happened along the way is I got away from what I knew real well was get the suckers to play hard, right? Go be tough guys, go compete, go all that stuff. So as the more you do it, the more you kind of dial in on what you believe and get them back to playing. So some few things from practice and how we teach stuff and how we drill it, and then I'm going to get on to some wide zone stuff. Practice has got to be hard so the game's easy. I'm not sure who said it. It was a Coach Caldwell was talking about these guys sit around on their phones all day, right? We're dealing with a different generation, which is just the way of our evolution. But we don't have guys that are working jobs. We're not getting guys that are used to working hard. And so we got to create that environment to make it harder on them. And we got to make practice hard so when they get in the games, it's going to seem easy to them, okay? Obviously, we're going to play like we practice. Coach Wiley did a thing a bunch of years ago about unconscious competence. How do we get them to play unconsciously? Okay, full speed, just like we go. And I explain it to my players because they can't understand that concept very well. They're too busy thinking about girls. But I tell them it's like driving. You can drive to campus and you make all kinds of decisions and do all kinds of things, and not once were you thinking about driving. So we got to get you to play the same way. We got to get you to be able to attack, go, do all this stuff without even thinking about a damn thing. Okay? There's no such thing as a gamer. I haven't found one yet. If anybody has, let me know. You just got to read for it. And then we got to do the right things in practice in order to do them right on game day. If we can't do them in practice, it ain't going to happen. You all know this. I'm just reaffirming my beliefs. I believe we have to strain them in practice. I think we got to make it hard as hell. The harder we can make it in practice, the better it is. And I get sometimes where you go to a high school practice and I see a bunch of them. I'm going out recruiting, and the O-line coach, they got 8 guys and they're walking through everything and they're doing everything kind of half speed. And then I don't know how that carries over to a game. Okay, I think we got to strain them, make it tough, And I think as an offensive lineman, you have to learn and embrace the thought of getting comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, the game of football starts in the third play. Shit, my shoulder hurts. I'm breathing heavy, right? Big man moving, you're tired. So we got to get them to a point where they're going to be comfortable being uncomfortable, okay? So we have 3 different tempos I use, and I teach these tempos in practice so they understand where I'm coming from. There's no gray area and all that stuff, okay? And this is really our individual time. The first thing we're going to talk about is teach tempo. And this is when we're, you know, really it's the starting point of every technique you teach, every drill you teach, everything. We're going to do it slow. We're going to talk through it. We're going to make it perfect. We may break it up into parts, step, that stuff. And we're going to make sure they understand it before we go to number 2. Number 2 is our execute tempo, which means we're just going to line up and execute a drill or a technique. We're going to go full speed. We may stop it, go do it again, make a correction, keep doing it until we get it right. Okay, that's kind of your general speed. And then the last one is we call fast tempo or jet tempo, because jet's a tempo. I coached for Rich Rodriguez for 5 years at Arizona. You know, jet tempo, tempo offense, a lot of you guys probably do it. We're going to practice our individual at jet tempo. We're going to train those guys to move fast, both on offense and defense. And that's my time to really find out how well they can do what I'm asking them to do. By that being, we're going to get as many reps in as we can get in a 10 to 20 minute period. We're going to change the drills, and we're going to go fast, and they're going to be gassed, okay? Now, key things is you got to teach the defense how to line up, you know, how to rotate, guys to rotate, because you can't wait for guys to come back. You're already going to the next rep. And you're really only correcting the big issues. I think this is the best film for me to watch. I've gassed them. They can't think straight. They can't breathe. They're doing everything. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to sit down in the meeting and we're going to watch the film. Well, what is that step? Well, we already taught it. We already did it and executed it. Now let's see what the hell it really looks like. Okay? So to kind of get an idea, and I really don't have any great film to show you, but we're just going here, and you can see I got guys lined up ready to go next. We're just working a 2-on-2 combination. We'll get more into this in a little bit. And they're going, and as they're going, the next group's lined up on defense. The next group's running in here. I'm signaling defensive stuff real quick. Boom, as fast as we can go. And next ones are going. We're going to go, this one takes a little too long because I'm going nuts because the linebacker ain't looking at me. But boom, boom, boom. How fast can we get, how many drills, how many reps can we get done in a 10 to 20 minute period? If you do that, you film it, that's where you're at. Okay? Again, it's one thing for them to understand it. It's another thing to be able to do it unconsciously, right? Just like you drive a car. And that's what the whole thing's about, bringing it back to that. Okay? Uh-oh. Robbie, I might have to borrow your guy. Mine's in Oregon. Uh-oh. We're good. Okay. Okay. The wide zone. We're a multiple offense. We run tight zone, inside zone, wide zone, not outside zone, Coach Alexander, wide zone, right? Okay, and then we run gap schemes, counter, and power. We kind of do a lot. I like the wide zone, and for some reasons I love it. I think it allows us to be physical and attack. And it was just like watching Coach Caldwell. When you're watching his tight zone, they're kind of settle, stepping, reacting, and then getting physical. And then as soon as he put his wide zone stuff on, they're attacking people, right? They're getting off the ball. I want to be physical guys. I want my guys to think they can control the game. I want them to think they can come off the ball and be aggressive. To be attack, not react, okay? And so I think the wide zone allows us to be physical, allows us to be aggressive, and allows us to move the line of scrimmage, and that's our goal, okay? The other things we can do is we can run it out of a ton of ways. We can run it with a fullback. We don't have one in our team. We can run it with 2 tight ends, no tight ends, various personnel groups, all those things. It allows us to marry the run and the pass, and earlier we talked about the keeper game off of it, which is awesome. And then we can add some RPO adjustments to it, where we can, if a defense is overloading the box, we can take the one-on-ones and throw some quick things. Okay. The other thing is that it's the simplicity of complementing it with the tight zone. Again, like was said earlier, same assignments, different aiming points, different technique, allows us to do more, create more confusion for the defense. All we're really changing is the technique and the fundamentals. Okay. Here's another part, and this kind of fits into what your offense is. Your quarterback doesn't have to be a great runner. Now, it doesn't mean we can't read the wide zone. Doesn't mean we can't do that part of it. But what it does mean is he's not the primary deal. We can create more conflict on that backside end read if we want to do it. We're stretching it further from them. And a lot of people defenses are getting pretty good at playing games back there, right? To mess up your deal. Okay? And the other is it limits the number of hits on the quarterback. We have a pro-style quarterback. We want a quarterback that can throw the ball. Great. Spread the field. Make them play that. Okay? That'll open the box up for us. But this is another way for us to limit the deal on the deal. All right. The wide zone stuff, getting through technique. This has already been talked about earlier in a little bit different way. Here's how we teach it. We teach one-man combinations. It means I got a guy probably by myself. Most of the combinations we do are 2 men, 2 guys for 2 guys. We'll also get to 3-man combinations, and we have some other adjustments on that. Okay. Earlier, Dwayne talked a little bit about the one-on-one blocks. Our teaching progression is we want to put our eyes to his pec. Okay, that's our point. We want to get our eyes to his pec. Our first step is whatever gets us to that position. That's one of the great things, you get a kid who just came from high school to college. Coach, what's the footwork? Well, where the hell are you supposed to get? His pec. Well, what's the footwork? Okay, hold on. You got to go take a dump. If the bathroom's over there, what's the footwork? If the bathroom over there, is it the same footwork? Right? So whatever footwork is whatever gets you to the position. Okay, that's the position step. The second step's the important part, though. That's the crotch step. We want that second foot going right into the crotch. We want it driving to it. Okay? Now, the same thing we were talking about earlier about that inside lock hand, we're the same thing. We want that inside lock hand on the bottom of the rib cage. We want to stick it in there, lock that thing in there, and drive it. Okay? So this is back to just teaching it. And we're starting with guys that are head up. This is a guy going left, guy going right. We want to be on the pec. Whatever first step gets them to the position. Second step should be to the crotch. His is way too tight. Okay? Then come back and get it going a little faster. Again, boom, boom. We want to be physical. We want to come off the ball. The only thing that happens a little bit here is sometimes we have to tighten these steps up a little bit just because we got to want 2 feet in the ground making contact. Okay? Doing it again in practice. Now, if the man slants to the outside as we're coming out there, we just take that inside hand, throw him outside, and widen them. If we're doing the same thing going to the right here, the position step, crotch step. If he goes to the right, that inside lock hand will naturally catch the man. Yep. boom. So that inside lock hand will naturally become a catch hand. The one thing when you rep this is, as soon as you start teaching this catch thing, the first thing they're going to start doing is start stepping short and just trying to catch a guy. So you really got to do 8 reaches for every 1 catch. You just got to throw a change up every once in a while. They'll naturally do it. The only coaching point to that is once I get here and boom, I get that hand, I catch him, just bring your body back up to him. You don't want to be sitting out here like this. You're going to get called for holding. Okay, if you bring your hips back up to him and finish it, you got it. Okay. So, right tackle over here. Okay, I don't like this because I think he's getting knocked back too much. Okay, and he wasn't strong with his lock hand, but it gives you kind of the idea of the steps. This is from the spring, so it's a little bit better. Second step there, goes outside, throw him outside, and keep going. Okay, now to the 2-man combinations. So we teach the uncovered guy and the covered guy. And it depends on where the alignment of the defensive lineman is. And we're talking about a play side combination only. For the covered guy, the first thing now is the aiming point goes from the pec to the armpit. We want to put our eyes in his armpit. First step's the same position step. Second step's the same crotch step. Okay? And we're going to take that inside lock hand now because we have a helper coming. We're going to put it in the middle of his chest, in the sternum. Again, emphasis. We want to come off the ball. We want to knock people back. We want to get after them. So again, going back to teach tempo, a little wider, hands now in the sternum, and they're in that spot. Okay? The second guy, we're going to step right at the defender's head. Okay, right at his head. Now, and Coach was talking about this earlier. I tell him we're going to take step at his head, take 3 steps, and go snap the guy outside. Well, there's other things that could happen. You can go 3 steps and snap him outside, but if the guy comes to you, or if the guy hangs there, you're going to end up doubling him. If the guy comes to you, you're going to end up taking over him. The problem with that is as soon as your young guys start doing that, and they step at his head, and they're trying to think about 3 different things happening, what's he doing? What's he going to do? What am I doing, right? We want to go play fast. I want him to run. I want him to think, run, snap, react to everything else. Okay? So again, just teaching it, just getting him to snap. 3 steps, snap and climb. Okay? So now we work it as a fit. First guy fits up, second guy fits up. Boom, boom. We're driving, we're snapping, and then we're climbing. Pretty good. Second step to the crotch, I like it. Pad level's not bad, hand in the sternum. Here comes the next guy coming through with the snap. Okay, defender slants outside. I basically talk this about like a T-bone. 2 cars come to the intersection. I'm coming off straight. He's going that way. His ass should be moved wide and far. Okay? Running 3 steps, snapping and climbing. If there's not there in 3 steps, get vertical right to the backer. Okay? Defensive lineman slants in. Boom. Keep going. Work up. Good job. Coaching point for the guard. In this case, don't lean back on the guy. You're going to be beat to the outside all the time. So left guard, left tackle. Pretty good job of snapping right here and taking it over. Okay, like to see it a little bit better with the tackle and the driving. Bad footwork with the second step. But it turned into a nice double, and the big thing we want is movement. If you really get down to it, our biggest thing we're trying to do is get on their side of the field. If we move the defense and we're playing on their side of the line of scrimmage, I don't care who the running back is. He can go get yards. Okay? Same thing here. Defender slants outside. We climb. Slants inside. React. Puts us on our pass. With the center or the second guy you're saying? Yeah, it'll happen that way sometimes. If he ends up on the play side, he wants to reach it, but if not, he just wants to move it. And again, the last thing I want to do in any of our wide zone stuff is position block. We want to move guys. I hate this shit. Pardon my language. So, and again, here you go, just talking about playing it. I hate the right guard here. Good job by the center, moving them. Again, creating movement both up the field and and horizontally. And horizontally. Okay? Now, a little bit different when the defender's shaded backside, when we have that 4-eye, which we're seeing more and more nowadays. This is where it gets a little bit different. We still step with the play side foot, but our whole deal and our whole teaching on this thing is it's all based on where the linebacker's aligned. So our track, our aiming points, our footwork, if the linebacker's inside, we're going to work vertical through the outside guy. If our backer's cheated play side, now we got to set ourselves on a track to get that linebacker. Okay? The uncovered guy is going to treat it more like a man blocker. In other words, he's going to take his eyes to the play side pec. He's going to get the second step to the crotch, and he's going to get that hand on his inside. So backer's inside. We're going to stay pretty square, crotch position. He's a man player. We're driving, turns into a nice combination, and we come off on the backer. Okay, here's a center guard, same kind of scenario. I don't like the leaning back. That's the one thing we got to kind of stay away from. We turn our shoulders back, we're in trouble. Same look, and again, the number one thing I want to do is get movement. You want to screw with the 4 eyes, knock their ass back 2 yards, put those backers in a bind.
Run that last play back, Coach. You put a left guard there with his left hand. Do you want that on the tackle, or do you want it?
It depending on what happens, I'd like them to get onto the guy, okay? The down guy. And again, generally it's going to define itself as it happens. It's
Wide zone, you push on the down guys.
Yep.
Outside zone, you scoop.
Outside zone, we'd overtake it. And we used to do that a lot and try to always run it through the CD gap. And what I found out is people who play the 4 eyes are doing a better job of playing laterally and making it a little bit harder to get reached, and it gets stretched out, and we're not getting the movement. Doing it this way, get a lot more movement, a lot more options for the back. Okay. Now a little bit, he's set way over here, so I'm going to set my track to the backer through the down guy and get movement. So here we're working here, set the track to the backer. Last second it changes up. Guard does a good job. I don't like his footwork. He's crossing over too much, but he does a good job of catching the man and hugging up his hips. Here we go again. Set the track to the backer, go through them, and move them. Now, I don't like his second step. It should be going to the crotch, but there's an example of a guy slants outside. He hits his third step, and then he just climbs to the backer. Again, that number 3, third step, it all comes back again and again. Okay? So this is the same thing with the center and the guard. Really want to get that center thinking that overreach. Get yourself going. Guard's got to set the track to the backer. And really got a wide backer over here. Now, again, what we're talking about. I don't like this. See him swinging his hips around and that position blocking crap. As soon as that happens, that's what usually happens. If he would just get there and drive vertical up the field, he's got the guy cut off, reached, whatever. A reach block is a lot easier to me when you drive somebody than when you try to position them.
Can you go back there and stop it at the front?
I'll try with this thing. Before the snap?
Before the snap, right there.
Yeah.
Say you were running the ball this way, wide zone,
Yeah.
okay? And the tight end and the tackle are working together, this back is over here.
W-
The back is over here, the tackle's uncovered, you got a free technique, and you're running the ball out.
Yep, and they're working to this.
What are you telling the tight end and the tackle on that scoop block for that backer, the backer is running downhill?
That begins the tough part, okay? Two things. One, how wide is this D end? Because really the technique's the same for these guys.
Well, the
But-
tight end doesn't have a nine, the guy's not.
Okay, if he's on him, then you got the same thing, okay? If he's tight enough now, these guys may catch it up in here. If he runs through the B gap, we'll catch it up with the guards, aiming point, and all that stuff. If it's an issue, that one becomes one that you got to be ready to work in a game plan deal. If they're trying to hit the gaps real quick.
Well, the guys, well, what we found was that once we started the block, that linebacker's coming downhill, we're telling the back man to come outside now. Get out there.
The only thing, yeah,
Because sometimes the tackle can't get up in time to get the guy, but the back's now running over you.
right. Unless that ends chasing you outside. Yeah.
Is there anything you work on to get your guy to press in vertical instead of shuffle? What do you do?
Just drill the hell out of it. I'll be honest with you. Just drill the hell out of it, expect it, show it to them on film, redo it, get it right, then do it fast and see if they can still do it right. You know, kind of the same thing. Okay. And we do the same thing, tight end tackle, the coach was talking about. It's kind of the same thing. Every once in a while you'll get a guy in there, okay, a backer where we get a pretty good deal. All right, backside combinations. I got time here, Coach? Okay. On backside combinations, our aiming point's pretty much the same thing. We're going to the armpit, okay? There's a couple little different things. We'll also say backside shoulder to play side knee. Meaning if the play's going this way, I want to take this shoulder and get to the knee of that man. Okay, and you'll see how that fits in here in a second. Okay, the covered player, as long as this guy is kind of head up to inside, the covered player is going to go through his play side armpit. Everything else is the same. Position step, crotch step. The uncovered player is going to turn, open step, crossover, and run through the inside knee of the down guy, or where the inside knee was. So I said backside shoulder to play side knee. If that guy's there, I want this shoulder to get where that knee was. If the guy stays there, we're going to double him, I'm going to cut him, or if he moves away, I'm going to work vertical up to the linebacker. So I'm always setting a spot for him to get going to. Again, I want him to play fast, I want him to go, I don't want him to be trying to read it and slow down. If we're playing slow, we're getting beat. So here you go. Inside through there, second step, not good, a little too far, should be going to the crotch. I'm running through there, he doesn't show, and I'm going there. I'm expecting him to slant. He slants, it belongs to the tackle there all day long. Cut his ass. Okay? If he hangs there, we'll get a natural double team and we'll get movement right there. We're crappy on the front side. Okay, this is a little bit different now. The backer's plussed. Sometimes we will push things a little bit. The backer's plussed. I'll kind of get into this in a minute. Who was talking earlier about quarterback naked? Now, I don't know if it would have stopped him. I don't know if it would hold him a step. But shit, we got to do it every time. Okay, with the centers, a little bit different. We want them to kind of, instead of going through the armpit, we want them to get a little bit wider and actually go through the man's shoulder. I want him to work with speed and just get a little bit wider for that head up nose. If I get to the armpit, it's a little bit short. I want to get through there. And so we just do a little drill early on just to get them moving around a trash can. Then you can move the can and offset it and do all those things. A little bit to go on here. Coming back to the fit, again, this would be a backside, center, and guard. I'm through the shoulder. I'm backside shoulder to play side knee, and we go. Okay, D lineman slants this way, then I get vertical. Now for the center, if you get through the shoulder, pop it open, keep going. If you don't, turn it into a two-hand push, and again, we're back to getting movement. What I like to do is get them playing a little bit sideways. If they're just going to sit there, we're going to get their ass cut down, right? If they start playing sideways, now they're moving sideways, we're getting vertical, we're getting movement, right? Now we own the line of scrimmage, okay? Here's nose guard slants away. It's kind of easy, just catch it and hang on, okay? Nose guard slants hard. Again, get vertical, get movement. And probably need to wrap it up here real quick. When we get a guy like a 3 technique, now we're going to set a track to where the linebacker is. Since it's on the back side, we got to lead the linebacker. So we're going to go a man over. So we're aiming to a backer over here. We're just working the basics. We're going to set our footwork to there. We don't want to cross over. We can't get washed out of here. And then we're going to throw this backside hand just to kind of screw with that shoulder. Like it to be like an uppercut if we can do it. And then our second guy, we're coming through thinking we're cutting, okay? So here you go. Backers in here. We're leading them over to there. We're running. Backside shoulder to play side knee and get vertical.
Coach, for your pregame, would you try to fast tempo them pregame too? Or just more?
No, I'm not a big pregame. Let's just get a little sweat going and call it good. You know, I'm not trying to get them worn out. Then they'd probably rebel, to be honest with you, because they're, you know. So. Last one, and I got a bad one here because I was going to get into cutting. This is pretty good by the guard. The last thing I don't like is, and I'll kind of hit it here, we always want to take one more step on a cut. We always want to drive up the field on a cut, and that's kind of the thing right here. Drive up the field, take one more step, don't dive when you cut, drive. Okay, and those are points that we just have to hit them over and over and over and over. All righty? Thank you.
Great job.
Being here, do appreciate the time. Thank you, Coach. Thanks, guys, for setting this all up.
I used these guys last year. You can imagine the information I got out of these guys. And then they come to me and they say, the Browns offensive line, you guys finished second in the National Football League. Okay, your right guard is the number 1 guy. Okay, the left guard is number 2. The center is number 3. Doesn't matter. We all got fucking time anyway. It didn't matter.
We blame all your quarterbacks all the time. I told you last year we blamed Kaiser for 12 sacks or whatever it was a couple years ago. Baker's always drifting and all that stuff. But they made an improvement there at quarterback. So for those of you who don't know, Pro Football Focus, we grade every single player on every play at the NFL and FBS level. We do it in a completely different fashion probably than you're used to. It's all production based. It's all based off our perception of how well did each player execute their job. We've come up with, and we're now working with all 32 NFL teams, 57, and we just recently received a call when we were in the hallway for the 58th FBS team. So we are, continuing to supply that data at the NFL and FBS level. It's grading, and it's also an accumulation of stats and numbers, a general view of run concepts and defensive fronts and all these different things that we've seen teams really be able to implement into their weekly game planning, off-season, player personnel discussions, whatever it is. We're really, I think, infiltrating the NFL and FBS level and just making processes easier, more efficient, and maybe even changing some processes and opening eyes to different things. So I want to go through a couple different things. This is titled FBS Defense Rankings. We'll get to those in a minute. But I want to start with some of the findings that we've come up with over these last couple of years. PFF started about 10, 12 years ago. We started doing this grading thing. And again, we do it differently. It's all about our perceived production or the contribution to production on a given play. And we've been doing these grades for quite a while. And just recently, we've started to properly invest in getting some smart data scientist type people who understand football and putting value to it. So when we say, the Browns had the number one right guard or the number one pass blocking left guard, what does that actually mean? Does it matter a whole lot in the grand scheme of things? Are guards underrated, overrated? Are tackles overrated or underrated? So our smart data scientist, one of whom is a former college tight end / math professor, so he understands the game, he understands math. So we started to put some value to these. So the last couple of years we said, look, when you take PFF pass blocking and run blocking grades, they do have an impact on whether or not a play is successful or not. But then you can actually go position by position and say, okay, in the pass game, the perception that, tackles should be getting all the money and they are a little bit more valuable, it's pretty much true. The tackle is a little bit more valuable when it comes to the pass game. And their ability to just not lose is the most valuable component of their job as far as pass protection goes. But at the same time, the difference between the left tackle is actually not that big. And this is something I think a lot of us kind of knew intuitively from watching the game, especially at the NFL level. The right tackle's got to face Von Miller, you got to face J.J. Watt, you got to go face Joey Bosa, Justin Houston, all these guys through the years. That right tackle's job is at least as difficult as the left tackle's job. So the left tackle's still a little bit more important in our numbers here, but it's pretty close. And if we showed the same graphic from a salary standpoint, left tackle's here and right tackle's still pretty much right here. And I think there's a few NFL teams that I think have caught on to some of that. There's still other teams that are still paying their left tackle a ton, and maybe the right tackle's an afterthought. So these are just some of our findings as far as the importance of each position from a pass game standpoint and from a run game standpoint. It's actually a little bit more even across the board. And of course, this is just looking at it from a really high level view. This is all running plays. It's not broken down into wide or outside zone or mid zone or inside zone. It's just at a high level view. And this changes based off of if you're running gap, if you're running zone, and what type of scheme you're running. But just some of our findings when it comes to O-line here. And then the stability year to year. This is kind of this is just like the next step as far as projecting performance using baseball as an example, which was my background actually playing minor league baseball. I was the idiot player that kind of knew enough about stats. Like, you guys don't want your players thinking too much, right? You don't want them thinking about technique a whole lot. You just want them to play fast and all that stuff. I was the idiot player that kind of knew about sabermetrics and numbers and all that stuff. So, but things got in my head too much, so I started doing football. But from a baseball standpoint, what they found is we got to find the things that matter most year to year. What are the things that are stable? What are the things that we can count on year to year? So in baseball, they said the three true outcomes essentially of a pitcher versus a hitter, it's home runs, strikeouts, and walks. So if you're a good pitcher, you probably strike guys out. You don't give up a ton of home runs. You don't walk a ton of guys. Hitter, it's the opposite. The other stuff, the average that a hitter has when the ball's put in play, it's a little dependent on how good your shortstop is, how good your center fielder is, that type of thing. So we're trying to find the components of football, as difficult as it is, 22 guys, different assignments, so many gray areas in it, but we're still trying to isolate those things that we can count on year to year, the things that you can say, this is going to stay stable. And we found that our grades, our production-based grades, have a pretty good level of stability. Now, you don't need to know what those numbers mean necessarily. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what .402 means. I just know that higher is better. And once you get over that 3.5 or that .35 to 4 range, it's got some significance right there. So our pass blocking grades for an offensive tackle and for a guard, when you just use our pass blocking efficiency metric, are actually pretty stable year to year. Okay, so it's one of those things that we found that you can count on it to a degree. There's always other components that go into what the outcome of that number is going to be in a given year. But the higher the number, the better. And O-line has become something we've done a pretty good job, I think, of quantifying. Center we see fluctuates just a little bit more. So it's understanding how to use these numbers when you're either projecting forward or looking at an opponent or whatever it might be. One of the best things we do, our quarterback grades are really good as far as the stability goes. Those are up at .55, .6, and then our pass rushing grades are really high as well. So we're finding some positions where we're stronger projecting performance than others. And O-line, we're getting there. We're always trying to make it just a little bit better. Do running backs matter? This is one of those fun discussions that we have, and we purposely put this in a snarky way. Do running backs matter? What we're trying to do with the run game is figure out what leads to a play. When there's a 5-yard gain, what are the factors that lead to that 5-yard gain? A successful running game consists of what? So we go back through the numbers and we start to look at the things that correlate to successful run games. And I think you guys will be happy to know that run blocking is a pretty significant factor. And if you go through it, it's the opponent's run defense, so essentially who you're going up against, is pretty significant. The run blocking unit, so this is based off of our grades. When we put these plus and minus grades at various degrees on each player on a given play, if those guys grade well, you have a more successful play. If they don't grade well, they don't. I know that sounds, that's how it should be, but the significance between the run blocking and the running back is actually pretty stark. So the point here being, we're the ones that are always saying, hey, NFL, stop taking running backs in the first round. Don't overrate running backs, because if you're trying to get run game success, the first thing you want to do is actually get a really good pass game, because that's what manipulates the box a little bit, your box count. You obviously want to get a good run blocking unit, offensive line, tight end, fullback, whatever you're using from a personnel standpoint. Then you want to basically count the box, win the numbers advantage. You guys all do a great job of that, of scheming up. And then the fourth thing is the skill of the running back. So it's trying to, and we have a tough time explaining this sometimes to our NFL team clients, sometimes to fans, that we think Zeke Elliott is an extremely talented running back. Saquon Barkley is an extremely talented running back, but their talent doesn't necessarily bring their production that much higher. These other factors do. So it's a bit controversial sometimes. Some of you might think, hey, that makes perfect sense. We see this every single day. Other people don't believe it, but we just have found that run blocking and the overall ability of the offense has a little bit more of a factor when it comes to successful run plays than, say, the running back. All right, so that was some of our more just analytical findings, things that relate to the offensive line. I want to go now. We did this last year from an offensive line perspective, and we said, okay, with all of the data and all of the numbers that we have, who are the best in college football right now? So we're doing this from a defensive perspective. I'll show a couple play examples in a second, but this is the top 5 pass rushes in college football from last year in pressure percentage. And for us, our terminology in pressure, I know a lot of times pressure means a blitz look or whatever. We just try to, we call pressure anything that's affecting the quarterback. So we're talking about the act of either getting in the quarterback's face, moving him off the spot, knocking him down, sacking him, which is different from, say, a blitz look, just in our terminology. So probably no surprise to see Clemson there with 3 first-round picks, 3 guys picked in the top 17 with the highest pressure rate, national champs, no surprise there. Miami, really high. All these teams kind of did things differently too in how they got there. Michigan with guys like Chase Winovich, Rashawn Gary coming off the edge there. Alabama always extremely high. Arkansas State up there as well. So that's just our top 5 in pressure percentage. We have the inverse of this too. We got a bunch of guys at a table over there. If you guys are interested in any of these top 5 lists, we have them for the offensive line. We have them in all sorts of different scenarios that we can show you as well. But we're just trying to show you some of the insights that we can draw from our massive database. So this is our top 5 pass rushes just when blitzing. So this is pressure percentage when blitzing. We have a couple play examples of Miami here. So they were at 54.7%. This is our trusty tool called Ultimate, which, by the way, I don't know, some people in this room might have access to our data with your team, whatever it is. If you don't know Ultimate or have seen access to PFF Ultimate, I highly suggest you can either come find us over here and ask questions about it, or talk to whoever it is within your organization to get it, because the ease of use to find these plays, it took me 2 seconds to basically fire up every single Miami blitz when they got pressure with the play examples right there. So I pulled up 2 quick ones just to show Miami's blitz look and how successful they were. The number 2 blitz pressure percentage team in college football last year. We built this tool Ultimate a few years ago after working with NFL team clients for a few years and trying to just solve a lot of the problems that you guys have, or just, again, increase efficiencies on a weekly basis. How do you increase your game plan a little bit more efficiently, find what you're looking for a little bit more efficiently? So that's our top 5 pressure percentage blitzing. We have the same thing from a stunt standpoint. We put a very, very broad, we use broad terminology for stunt. Essentially anytime there's some sort of gap exchange from a pass rush standpoint. So I've got 2 examples for Air Force here, who's one of the top teams there. We've got your just, traditional end and tackle. We have more of a cross X blitz type of thing for the second example, but the way we track it at a very broad view is just the exchange of gaps, and the way teams are using this is saying, okay, we're putting everything into the stunt bucket, and then of course you guys can sort this every which way and get as detailed as you want based off of that. Similarly, we can look at how teams performed against certain run concepts, and again, we try to stay very broad here. Paul was mentioning the difference between outside zone, wide zone. We try to throw stuff into the very, very wide buckets, so then you can go and say, hey, this is wide, this is outside, this is mid, whatever it might be. So for power, the number we're using here is yards before contact, because again, we did this last year for the offensive line, and we were trying to show, okay, which offensive lines or which schemes were creating the most yards before contact, before the running backs even getting touched, just to try to isolate the blocking as much as possible. So this is the inverse of what we showed you last year. And again, if you guys are curious as to which teams rank high or low from an offensive line or blocking standpoint, we can do that over at the table when I'm done here. But from a defensive standpoint, Wake Forest giving up minus 0.3 yards before contact per attempt against power last year. Just an example of the type of data that you can pull out, the type of data that teams are using, whether it's early in the week just to get a snapshot of what some of the strengths and weaknesses are of the team that you're going against or whatever it might be. So that's power. Same thing for counter. We see a bunch of Big Ten teams here: Maryland, Michigan State, Ohio State, Minnesota up there. And then we have a couple play examples as we get into inside zone. Michigan State's number 3 there. So we just have a couple of plays showing them blowing it up and making plays in the backfield. Their defensive end, Willikis, pretty good player. One of our top graded run defenders. I think he's number 48 over there. So they did a really nice job on inside zone concepts. Again, keeping it very broad for us as far as what the way we bucket these run concepts. But essentially, any play in the FBS season or the NFL season gets, Brian, how many lines of data do we have now? How many columns? 180 columns for every single play, the things that you can kind of pull out. So all these different data points that you can kind of construct and try to find what you want. So those are the top 5 against inside zone, and then as we get into outside zone, it's Charlotte. And again, you'll throw a couple plays up there as well. They were the best at limiting yards before contact against outside zone plays. And again, this shows we're pretty much given Charlotte versus Florida Atlantic, Charlotte versus Old Dominion, the same amount of love as we're giving Ohio State, Michigan on a play-by-play grading and data collection standpoint. So we have it for every single team at the same level. We can see Charlotte doing a nice job here against outside zone. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm highlighting defense here tonight. We did offensive line last year. I wanted to show the defense, wanted to show what you can do potentially when you're going up against the defense, finding their strengths and weaknesses. And it's something that we're trying to continue to evolve. We've got this massive database. Teams are finding, I think they're just scratching the surface in how they can use it. We've continued to learn different ways that we can use it and help teams, and we're continuing to do that, all with an eye toward winning football games. It's why everybody's here, to learn more ways to be better and to win football games. It's our quest to find what wins football games at the NFL level and what does it at the college level, and we try to use all that data, and that's why we have every NFL team as a client. Cross that off, make that, just write it in right now, 58 FBS, I'm just kidding. 58 FBS clients, and we put a lot of time into it. There's over 500 employees all over the world doing this work, putting the effort in, over 50 hours of video watched each game, and we take the data very, very seriously. We do a first run on it, we do a review, we review the reviews if they need it, and just trying to add as much context as possible to every single play. So I appreciate the time from anybody. If you guys have any questions or if you want to see any of those top 5 lists, whatever it is, we're out here at a table. Thank you guys.